Our first stop takes us to the site of one of the worst train wrecks in the history of the South. A head-on collision between a train from Knoxville and a train from Bristol. What were they doing on the track at the same time? Our first mountain mystery takes us to the New Market train wreck of 1904.
The ghostly echo of a train rolls over this field, a lonely sound that fills this lowland, the site of the New Market train wreck that took 64 lives in 1904.
While there's little that remains of the rail bed, 100 years later, there's still an eerie feeling to be standing at the site of that tragedy. Ironically, the land is still owned by a family that was an eyewitness to the crash.
I never will forget my grandmother. They were cleaning chickens on the back kitchen porch, getting ready for Sunday, when the two happened. And of course, that stopped everything. Everybody went to the train wreck.
There are only 4 photos of the destruction. Boilers exploded, twisting steel. Wooden cars carrying passengers were crushed like an accordion between a caboose at the back and an exploding engine at front. Years later, we still question, how could this happen?
When number 15 pulled off after he stopped at New Market, he went right by the siding that he was supposed to head in, and the agent operator, or the telegraph operator, in that day and time they were known as agent operators, he hit the telegraph key in hopes that number 12 had not cleared Hodges, because there was a telegraph operator there. But lo and behold, number 12 had cleared Hodges. And they knew up and down the line that that wreck was going to happen.
Frank Johnson's emotion is empathy developed from 20 years of study. He has photographed tombstones, talked to families. He knows the effect this wreck has had on the lives of so many in East Tennessee.
After you've been into something for 20 years, you get to know these people that were in the wreck. You get to know them rather intimately, even though they were dead before you were born.
Every once in a while, I have somebody that comes by and wants to go down to where the wreck happened because they had a relative or knew someone that was killed in the wreck.
2 groups on the up train were going to funerals that became their own. Knoxville was flooded with the dead and wounded. The fault was leveled at the down train engineer. He tried to beat the sidetrack to get to Knoxville so he could see his horse in a race. Southern Railway was paying claims only hours after the wreck. Still, some say the engineer was framed.
There's a legend that when the Engineers Brotherhood was up there on the scene of the wreck Sunday afternoon, that they found his body and all of his orders were wet because, you know, when two steam engine trains collide and the boilers explode, there's plenty of water around. But the legend is that all of his orders were wet except the Morristown order, and it was dry. And the legend goes on to say that one of the engineers in the Brotherhood put those dry orders on him.
A mountain mystery within a mountain tragedy. For Project Family, Greg Wallace, News Center 5.